We are the dead, short days ago. We lived, felt on, saw sunset glow. Loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take out our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high. If ye great faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Morning, everybody. I was asked by the Legion to say a few words on such a very important day, and the theme being patrolling our borders. It's such a vague topic, and I'm going to just try to give you a little bit of insight from my perspective, from my years of service. So, bear with me. Don't you have anything better to do? Is often the question police officers are asked. I've certainly been asked this on occasion over the course of my service. It would seem to be a relatively straightforward question, and one would expect a straightforward answer. I've learned over the course of 14 years with the RCMP that a simple yes or no really never seems to answer the question. Typically, the question is put toward an officer during a traffic stop. It's a bright sunny afternoon. It's an opportunity to enforce some potential traffic laws. The officer may have just finished up a few investigations that have taken a tremendous amount of time gathering facts. The officer would have liked to have been out on the road more that week, but may have been very busy. My patrol car has always been a place where I quietly reflect on the day, the week, or the month that's been. It's then I realized I hadn't had the chance to be out on the road as much as I would have liked to have been. I recall a time patrolling a particular stretch of highway that just a few days earlier was the scene of a horrific crash. A young man had got behind the wheel of his truck. He was impaired. His friends begged him not to drive. He went so far as to take his keys from him. I suspect he thought himself to be pretty smart when he found the keys and drove away. Instead of taking the curve, he drove straight off the road at highway speed, rolling several times. I recall being on scene and seeing his friend holding his body crying. I recalled the very unnatural position he was laying in. I tried to make myself believe that as bad as it looked, he was going to be okay. Well, he was not. He would survive, but he was paralyzed for life. I thought about that night every time I patrolled past the spot. The spot meant nothing to anyone else besides him and I. Officers are reminded of horrific tragedy every time a patrol happens to take them back to a specific location. On those sunny days and early mornings when I was out issuing speeding tickets and looking for impaired drivers, I suppose I wouldn't have had anything better to do. There are many, many wonderful people a police officer comes in contact with on a daily basis. I've learned over the years that only a small fraction of people are not wonderful. Some are very bad. Some do many unspeakable, unforgivable, and unimaginable things to those wonderful people. I recall many times meeting up with my fellow officers at the local coffee shop. It was an opportunity to share and discuss our investigations. Often only the highlights could be fit in. After all, we couldn't sit in the coffee shop all shift. Just when you thought you'd heard it all, one of the officers would quietly discuss a recent child interview he or she just had. Where after a few hours of building the trust of the child, they went on to describe unspeakable crimes that had been committed upon themselves. The officer felt very good knowing that they would be able to now lay charges and protect that child from further harm. The rest of us were just there to listen. It helps police officers to talk to each other about stuff that bothers us. Once while off duty, I was driving through the city and saw 2 or 3 police cars at a coffee shop. I'd been listening to a radio show, and I thought I was bothered by seeing police cars at coffee shops all the time, and wondered if they had anything better to do.
I remember thinking back to all the conversations I've had over the years with so many great officers and how we help each other to understand why people do what they do. I just smiled and continued driving. I'm sure the caller had nothing better to do that day. When an officer graduates from training, he's issued a badge. It's a very proud day for the officer and his family. I only realized how heavy the badge becomes once I got into the real world and began dealing with real people with real problems. The badge doesn't weigh much at all, but memories tend to weigh it down. Some days are very difficult. Police officers run into places where other people prefer running out from. I recall having entered a home and trying to secure a gun before an angry man was able to find the bullets to load it and cause harm to his wife. I'm glad I didn't have anything better to do that day, or I may not have made it in time. On too many occasions I've investigated collisions where people have died. Unfortunately, I've had to see many bodies that have suffered severe damage. It's unfortunate to say that was the easy part. The hard part was telling the mom or dad that their child had been killed. I've even had occasion to have to pass this very sad news on to the persons who dislike police very much. I've knelt beside them and placed my hand on their shoulder. Perhaps much to their surprise, much to my surprise, I would get a thank you. During those moments, I was glad it was me who had nothing better to do. Police officers tend to miss children's birthday parties, anniversaries, turkey dinners, Christmas celebrations. Protecting the citizens of our communities is a 24-hour job. We are out over the holidays patrolling our streets, gravel roads and highways to ensure everyone gets to where they need to be safely. We are out after everyone goes to sleep to stand watch over our communities, ensuring our citizens feel safe in the comfort of their own home. We respond in the middle of the night to violent confrontations and are expected to make the right decision in every circumstance, which allows us to return safely to the comfort of our home. We honor those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in the execution of these duties. I acknowledge it is their sacrifice and the sacrifice of our veterans that enable us to appreciate all that we have today. 231 members of the RCMP have been killed in the service of our country since becoming a police force in 1873. Today, there are over 19,000 officers that serve across Canada and around the world. Speaking to you as one of the many officers who currently serve this great country, I am thankful for those drives on a sunny afternoon, the speeding ticket that perhaps stops the impaired driver from killing himself and others up the road, so I can avoid telling one more person that their loved one has passed away. I am thankful for all of those days where I have safely arrested a violent offender who has committed great harm upon others, or getting there just in time before someone commits a tragedy. I proudly say that there is nothing better I have had to do on any of those days, and I absolutely have nothing better to do than Remembrance Day.